Here's the story.
Every major victory in war is a result of long planning, long preparation, with the loss of often thousands of men. But when something comes along that is unexpected and you have this great prize, now there's a great alarm. In the other cases, you've expected it, you've planned for it, and here you come along with something that gives a great lift to the morale of the whole force, everybody. I think from private up to our bosses in Washington and London knew that the war was over. Every one of us realized that if Hitler had the slightest sense, he would immediately surrender. But it was the gallantry of the men that did it is something that should never be forgotten. And their names really ought to be in some, I'd say, permanent place in the niche of fame that the American government should like to keep.
My name is Frank Petriello, and I'm, how old, exactly how old are you?
101.
What?
101.
100 years old.
101.
101 years old.
And a hat and recorders.
I was born on March 16, 1921.
What do you think about being 101 years old?
Well, actually, I'm not surprised. I was. Should I tell them the story about
sure,
the doctor?
Yeah, sure.
When I was in the probably early 40s, I was shamed into going and having a physical, and so I did, and the doctor that examined me, he gave me a whole physical, which I had never had before. He says to me, he says, everything was pretty normal, or close to normal, and he says, you know, you're in good shape. He says, and you still have that murmur. Murmur? I says, I don't have a murmur. He says, oh yes, you do have a murmur, but he says, he says, the kind of murmur you have is usually connected with people who live long lives.
Wow.
And as I was, like I say, in my 40s, you know, and so I guess he was right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise you that you've reached 101
And
years?
that's what I meant, yes. It doesn't really surprise me because ever since I was in my, I suppose, in the late 30s, early 40s, I expected that I would reach this age. And here I am.
My name is Emmanuel Carlo, and my age is 98.
My name is Edward Forrest Hill, Jr. I was born June 14th, 1924 in Philadelphia.
I am proud and honored to be sitting here and to live this long, which I don't know why, but I am trying the best I can to have it worthwhile. I'm not looking for anything special, but to go walking down the street and say, "Hi, Stu." That's all I like.
the first game I learned was playing baseball.
We never had nothing, but we did have something. We had each other.
Those years weren't all smooth sailing by any means. I've had my share of the breaks, good and bad.
Well, what I liked about Jersey City, where I lived, my neighborhood had people from all different countries, and we all got along good. And they brought a lot to this country. They brought a lot of the trades and the work they did. They brought up the country.
These fine old craftsmen have come from 15 plants throughout the country to take part in the opening ceremonies.
The spread of respect and power in a community is influenced by certain conditions, which many observers measure by means of the economic distribution and information scales.
I come home and tell my father I spent 2 months paid in Paris in 2 days. What the hell's the matter with you? You look like caught in mine? Yeah, I said, when am I ever going to get back to Paris again?
I missed dancing with Ingrid Bergman by just a few minutes.
Wow, so close.
Yeah.
You're crying. Well, you may have your reasons, but think of all the fun that lies ahead.
What else can you think? You're fighting for yourself, more or less, but you still are trying to do a good job.
Just a few hours of my first battle, and at 19 years old, I aged 20 years. 20 years after seeing dead soldiers, this and that, it hits you. It hits you, yeah.
You know, it's strange. It is strange. You can't let it bother you.
Some of the things you don't like to talk about, they get hit with bombs, you know, people are going to be killed, and kamikazes, you know, they did kill a lot. And, some people don't want to talk about it. Maybe yes, maybe no, depending on how I felt.
These are men who have shared the incommunicable experience of war. In the words of Oliver Wendell Holmes, they felt, they still feel, the passion of life to its top, because in their youths, their hearts were touched by fire. And now in their old age, their very old age, having been forged in that furnace and lived that passionate life, as long as they have, they offer a rare glimpse and a worthy perspective. We visited with these 4 veterans, these 4 participants of the Rutgers Oral History Archive Project, and asked them a wide range of questions about the project, about themselves, at war and during peacetime. From their childhoods long ago to their elder stage of wisdom and age. This is about learning from the past.
Oh, thank you, sir.
From those who lived it. Thank you, sir. What do you think of being a part of projects like this one where we're filming and interviewing you, and how Rutgers interviewed you some years ago? What do you think of that?
No, I think it's such a good thing. It's a good thing that all I can say, that I'm still around to tell you about these things.
You mean me talking to the students?
Yeah, you talking to students and other veterans. Why do you think that's an important
Because
thing?
they asked me to. And I want to tell them
Yeah.
my feelings with what it's been and what their families have been doing. I mean, it's not bragging.
No.
It's something that you've done and you're proud of. It hasn't hurt me one bit. I don't have a big head about it because I made so many friends. That school that I was talking to, I knew the teacher. And when they sent me that material, I fooled them. I went down to the school and asked the principal, may I go up to the class? No problem. He took me up in personally. I opened that door and those kids stood up and cried. Yes.
They clapped for you.
Yeah.
And that felt good.
Yes. And I tell you, I am proud.
The people who actually lived through these events are the only ones who can actually tell us what it's like to feel, fear for a family member going off to war, what it's like to actually deal with those horrors. They can tell us things that we'll never get anywhere else, like exchanges between officers that don't get reported in daily reports, what really happened in a battle. Oral histories have to be used in conjunction with other resources, but they're the only one that really gives us too much of an insight into how these people felt, what motivated them, how they overcame obstacles by coming up with new strategies or in some cases, taking things that they had in the field and making a new weapon or a new tool out of it. So a lot of things that don't get recorded in other sources. So the oral histories give us that kind of insight, but then they also show us the long-term effects of these events. The impact of what we now call PTSD. A lot of folks think that was a Vietnam era phenomenon and later, but every person, going back to that quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes regarding the Civil War, pretty much everyone in any war will have that kind of reaction, that kind of mental stress that they carry with them for the rest of their lives in most cases. We get to see how that actually shakes out in a person's life, how it affects the people around them, and then how society reacts to it. So that's something that we can recapture a bit of through the oral history as well as the archival record in that case. But you really see that war doesn't just stop when victory is declared or when the person comes home. It in some cases lives with them for the rest of their lives.
Tell me about the Rutgers Oral History Archive.
Originally what they wanted to do was make a room in the library where students would come in, listen to audio, and look at murals on the wall. That idea quickly got changed into putting this stuff on the internet, because the internet was just coming along to a point where we would be able to post stuff like this. They started putting up the transcripts, and they found they were getting hits from all over the world. France, Russia, but particularly across New Jersey and across the US. People were using it in books, museum exhibits. Some of it's on display at the Smithsonian's American History Museum. So it really caught on very quickly, and we became known for putting this type of material on our website.
Another aspect that was important of these original oral histories was that they were life course interviews. So all the interviews that we do at the Rutgers Oral History Archives cover the entire scope of someone's life. So these original oral histories in Rojas' collection, although they're World War II veterans, and so there's a lot of military history in the interviews, there's also there are a lot of other historical topics that are covered in the interviews.
And we looked at it from pretty much every angle. The military experience, obviously, but looking at all the different theaters, people who were on the front lines, people who were doing supply, doing stateside work at different bases. But we also looked at home front experiences, people working in factories, in research operations, Rosie the Riveters working in factories across New Jersey, home front activities like Victory Gardens, canning, but then looking at the human cost of war. What was it like when somebody on your street was killed or wounded? What about in your family? How did that affect the family? So we tried to incorporate all these different perspectives, look at it as many different populations as we could, not just men, but also a lot of women's perspectives, different ethnic groups and other groups that were in New Jersey at the time. And yeah, just tried to make it as complete an archive as possible.
Those foundational interviews of the Rutgers Oral History Archives are incredibly important at this point because almost all of those people who were originally interviewed have passed on at this point. So their oral histories are preserved in the Rutgers Oral History Archives so that their family members can access them, so that students and scholars can access those oral histories and learn about their experiences.
Interviewed your grandfather, correct?
I did. I interviewed my grandfather, Charles Sedgwick Tracy Sr., in 2001. I was 21 years old. My grandfather was 89 years old. And I did that for the Rutgers Oral History Archives when I was a public history intern. We had a close relationship going into the interview, so it was very comfortable for each of us. And we became even closer after the interview. My father and I drove up to Syracuse, New York, where my grandfather was living at the time. We did the interview in the morning. We met for 4 hours, recorded for 3 hours. And back in 2001, we used the analog cassette tape. So since then, the oral history's been digitized. And it was just a wonderful experience to be able to take our shared love of history and family history and to take it a step further and to preserve my grandfather's oral history. What was also a really neat thing that I found out during the interview was that my grandfather had letters from World War II that he had written to my grandmother, and she saved them. So he unearthed these letters during the interview, and then he gave them to me, and then that became part of my senior thesis that I worked on as a history major at Rutgers.
Wow, what a discovery.
We were transferred out from San Diego in September of 1943 to Pearl Harbor. We'd be planning an attack first in the Gilbert Islands and then the Marshall Islands, and then we'd go there and come back to Pearl Harbor and plan for the next one. And
I've read my grandfather's oral history transcript many, many times. To hear his voice again is just really reassuring. We can't talk to those World War II veterans anymore because they've passed, but they can speak to us through their oral history interviews.
Are there some things that your memory is stronger with?
Yeah, I guess when it comes to what happened during and after World War II, yes, I do think that's it's good, and I think I'm pretty good at remembering that time. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. And movies, right?
Yeah, I was always a big movie fan, yes.
Were you a movie fan as a child? Did you get to go to the movies when you were a kid?
Oh, yes. Matter of fact, sometimes I tell stories about how I used didn't have the 10 cents to get into the movies, and I would sneak in.
How did you do that?
Well, I had several ways of sneaking in. I would go there before the movie started, and go into the bathroom and hide in there until the movie started.
Are there some things that you remember better than other things?
Well, I could remember going back to the Depression when I was 5 years old. 6, 7. Well, the Depression was when I was 8, but I remember me growing up even before the Depression. 1929, I have pictures of it.
You remember 1929?
29, I was 5 years old. Yeah.
Where did you grow up? I know you were born in Fishtown, Philadelphia, but where did you grow up?
Moved over here to Delaire section of Pennsauken in 1927.
So 27, so you would have been
4 years old.
Oh.
Three or 4 years old.
What do you remember from your childhood? What is your strongest memories from childhood?
My aunt lived in Tacony section of Philadelphia. Every Friday, my sister and I used to walk across the bridge. And my mother knew when we weren't home where we were. So almost every Friday we do that. Very enjoyable.
My mother had 8 children, and we all went to school, and times were rough. My mother had a bad heart. She was sick. My father got hit by a car. He couldn't work. So who's supposed to keep the family going? The children.
Yeah.
So I was one of them. I was young, but I thought that was great. Yeah, I thought that was great to go out there and do something that older people were doing with different equipment and stuff. And we had to work. And I remember coming home from high school, I went to a spaghetti factory before I went home and had a part-time job.
Wow.
Yeah. And then on Saturdays, I had a job working in a laundry. And then I used to go to my father's little business and help out with shining shoes or selling magazines. And that gave me an incentive to work hard.
Yeah.
And as I grew older, I appreciate what I did when I was young.
Stuart, what kind of kid were you growing up?
Plain kid. A plain poor kid. Yes.
As a family, you were very tight with your family? You played with your siblings?
More or less, we was one. Again, we didn't live in the home too long. We were always moving and all the time. And like I say, once the money had to come up, we'd have to move. And I think I would say we've been at least 12 or 15 different homes. Yes, yes.
Were you outside most of the time as a kid playing?
Yes, and you know how we played. You know, do you ever hear about when you throw the ball over the roof of a house and you have to run around to get it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah.
That's something. I mean, yes. We used to play horseshoes, or we made a scooter like. We took a roller skates and made one of these they got today.
Yeah.
Nothing like they got today though, but we had the horses up there that give you horseshoes and all that. But as far as doing much, we had a good time once together. We had good friends.
And then when I went in the Army, most of the guys that I was with all were living during the Depression, and they made very good soldiers.
Right.
They had good discipline, hard workers, and most of the stories I heard from them was the stories that I went through. And that's what made very good soldiers, that they worked hard during the Depression.
So the struggle of the Great Depression made them stronger to...
Right. Mentally
soldiers.
and physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious from your perspective, do you think it was the culture they grew up in, the way they were raised, that gave them this sense and aura, or do you think it was what they went through and had to go through that molded them into what we consider an exemplary group of people?
Yeah, the generation that we call the greatest generation, they grew up during the Great Depression, and then they went off to fight in World War II and support on the home front during World War II. And so that's what gave them the nickname, the greatest generation. I think what I would take away from knowing my grandparents, they all had so much humility. I don't think any of my grandparents would have called themselves the greatest generation. I think they would have laughed at that notion.
Can you tell me about where you were and what you thought and felt when you heard that Pearl Harbor had been attacked?
I said what everybody else said. You know what we said? Where's Pearl Harbor?
We have witnessed this morning the distant view, a brief battle off Pearl Harbor, and a severe bombing of Pearl Harbor by enemy planes, undoubtedly Japanese. This battle has been going on for nearly 3 hours. It is no joke, it is a real war.
And what were your thoughts on the day that Pearl Harbor was attacked? Do you remember?
I think I was in a Boy Scout still. And we were at a camp. And I don't think any of us realized what it was. It's Pearl Harbor. I didn't even know where Pearl Harbor was.
How did your town, your family, yourself become aware of the war?
Well, I think it was in our high school, and we was talking. That's when we found out that we was at war. Yes.
Did that scare you?
No.
Do you remember?
You didn't think about it, really. You're not involved, so you go along with the flow. Yes.
I read in your interview with the folks from Rutgers that you said something like, the war was over there,
yes,
in another country, and here in the United States, people never had
didn't
experience
bother, yeah,
except for the Civil War.
Well, you wouldn't, like now, again, we was on the poor group. We used to go down and get a couple pounds of sugar or whatever, and we knew that was hurting us also. But that's about the only thing that the war was for us. Or we have somebody we knew was going. We lost a couple of guys that left our school while we were still in school.
Did you plan to enter the armed forces, or
not right away, nothing until it got to see when Mrs. Roosevelt came up to see us. That was a good thing for her to do, to get us interested in our politics. But I never thought about it. As soon as I graduated, I got taken.
You know, from what I've read, seen in movies, etc., when Pearl Harbor was attacked, it was suddenly a wave of patriotism and an urgency by a lot of men to, we got to do this, we have to fight. Is that how you and your friends
true.
felt?
That's true. As a matter of fact, that very next night, we went to a dance, and we started discussing. I'm going to go to this. I told him I'm not going in the army. It's either the Marines or the Navy.
Well, first of all, when you do go in, you think you're gun-ho. You're going to do everything, and nobody's going to bother you. You're going to be up there,
Yeah.
And I thought it's not going to be as bad as it turned out to be. And the first person I saw killed was in Utah Beach, was an American soldier. He was from Brooklyn. They had a tag on him. You know, they put a tag on you, and he was from Brooklyn, and the first thing that hit my mind is, this could have been me. He was a young guy. I says, hey, this could be me, and I just started. And I said, what I'm going to go through, you know? And I try to calm myself, and like I say, the Bible kept me calm.
During the attacks on the Intrepid, were you fearful?
Oh, you got to be scared. Everybody says they're not scared. It's a damn liar. Yeah, I was scared. One deck below the flight deck was a room. They were hit, and the whole room was burned out. They wanted volunteers to go in there, volunteers to get parts of the mess. So I went in, volunteer. I picked up a shoe with a partial lay-in, foot in it.
Wow.
Just come out, put that in a bucket, went back in. I picked up a hat, which was all black. I put it in, no more. I couldn't sit in it. Couldn't stand that at all. I mean, it had to be done, but I didn't want any more parts of it.
And you were able to walk away? They let you walk away? Hmm.
Well, they had no choice. I wasn't going to go back in.
Right. You mentioned in your interview with the folks from Rutgers that the thing that really haunted you were the burials at sea.
Sure. They didn't have refrigeration enough to bring the men home. So what they did, all the men that were buried at sea, they had they sewed the inside of a canvas thing, and they put a 5-inch shell in the casket, the canvas thing that they say, and they put all holes in it and slid them overboard. They were slid overboard, and flags were sent home.
How did you feel watching that?
Very, very sad. Some of them I know might have been friends. It's something you didn't want to go to, but you had to. No, a lot of times it's more men that see too. But I said, these four, we had to go to all of them, unless you were on duty. The last couple of times I was on duty, I'm glad. Because you don't want to cry, but you do.
Yeah.
Because you know, later, some of them were friends of yours, definitely you were friends. And it's very harrowing, or I don't know what you call it, or a place you don't want to be, but had to be.
You know, I always say that people have asked me, were you scared? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, and this has always been my answer. Was I scared? If somebody's shooting at you, and you say you're not scared, one or two things. Either you're a liar, or you're too stupid to know that somebody's shooting at you and you're not scared.
As you approached the front, what were your feelings? I know you say like you just did it. It was just, you were told to do something and you did it. Was there any sense of apprehension or fear as you were approaching?
Not, I don't remember that part. I mean, you know, it's something. It's something to do, and you do it as you have to do. And I did something that we got stuck. We was always in reserve for the riflemen. We wasn't far behind them. But one time we got pinned down, and I don't know why I did this. They needed somebody to go back for reserves. I volunteered. In the woods. I don't know why I did it, but I made it. I did it. So I guess I got a medal for it, but that's not what you do it for. And then we got pinned down again, which was bad because we were on the side of the mountain, and they start throwing the mortars in, like. And one of my guys got hurt, and I wasn't trying to be a hero. I took the guy and took him down and back. I gave it to get help, and I got. You don't forget things like that. No. I try to be a good soldier.
When you were heading into battle, did you know what you were fighting for? What was your sense for what you were fighting for?
Life.
And what do you think the German soldiers were fighting for?
Life. What else can you think? You're fighting for yourself, more or less, but you're still trying to do a good job. I have to be honest. I can't remember being scared. Never being scared.
Is there no time to be scared?
No, yeah. Well, not only that, in the wintertime, it's too cold. It was crazy. I just couldn't understand how we were able to do what we did. And we were a good, solid group together. We all were good people together. We were one. He wasn't better than the other guy. He wasn't better than you. It's just, you had good friends you depended on. And that's why I thought about my friend. Yes. When we was ever, after we went to a place and took it and stayed there to protect it, we were like brothers.
Yes, sir. I'm going home. I guess you think I'm pretty lucky getting back so soon. Well, I think so too, but I'm not going to apologize. I had a low number coming in. I've been thinking about a lot of things tonight. I was thinking about how much a guy can learn in 4 years. I'm not the same guy that left home 4 years ago. I feel like a bigger guy. I feel that I'm coming back to a bigger kind of home. And that's a pretty good feeling.
What was your life like when you returned from your time in the service?
You know, when I came back.
Yeah.
I went back to work, and it's like, like there was no interruption.
When I got back home, there was nothing. There was nothing. There was nothing. And just by luck, I had a good friend there. His name, yes, Roland Bear. I named my son Roland after him. And he had a job in the Western Union office. That's how I got to be my job first, the Western Union.
I couldn't get a job or nothing, so I had in mind, you know what I wanted to do?
No.
I said, I always wanted to, even, it says, when the war ends, I wanted to join the Army again as a medic. Because all my buddies got killed in Europe. They were only 19, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And when I lost them, they were like brothers because we went to school in Germany. They were like brothers to me. And when I lost them in Germany, and I says, I'm going to join the Army Medical Corps.
Yeah.
I want to be a combat medic and go out there and help them. And that's what I did.
How did you feel on VE Day?
VE Day, thank God, half of it's over.
And how did you feel on VJ Day?
I don't know, there wasn't much celebration there either. Just thankful it's over. I don't think there's much so. Maybe a little bit more than VE Day. But I say we were 5 days after VJ Day, we were in Turco Harbor.
Yeah. What was that like?
Scary.
Oh.
You don't know how the Japanese were going to operate. I mean, how the Japanese would receive you. Now, going ashore the 5th day, another guy and I were going ashore in Tokyo, and the boys were playing hardball. We were just watching them, and I wanted to go play hardball. I hadn't played hardball for a long time. So I asked them, they didn't know what I was talking about. So I went in, and this little young Japanese boy, he could really throw a fastball. So I went in, and I hit maybe one to the outfield, and zing, 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 I struck out. So I gave them some chewing gum or something, and they were very grateful. I mean, they were scared of what I would do, and I was scared of what they would do. And they were very friendly.
How did your life in the service influence your life after the service? Did it at all?
I really can't put that into words. And I wasn't alone. You know, we all did the same thing. You know, we went back to work. Many of them, you know, to where they had left off, and then that was it.
They're shattering production records in peacetime, just as they shattered production records in wartime. And they're mighty proud of the fact. Let's check with one of them. Oh, Jim, Robbins, you fellows are pretty proud of your production records, aren't you?
We sure are, Mr. Hicks. Of course, you know I wasn't here during the war.
I know, you did about a 4-year hitch, didn't you, Jim?
Air Force.
But your dad was here.
My dad's been here for 35 years. One of my uncles more than that. I've got relatives all over the place. Well, see you later.
Oh, when I came up from North Korea, I told my mother and my oldest sister, I want to get a job right away. I went to an agency, and in 2 weeks, they gave me a job in a laboratory.
That's what you did.
I did qualitative, a proprietary pharmaceutical lab.
And did you work in that kind of work the rest of
I worked at that for 8 years, and I got sick from the chemicals. My lungs, and my doctor and the company doctor says to get away from it. Because I was only in my early 30s.
Yeah.
And I got away from that, and I went to IBM school. And then I went to the Navy. The Navy base, they taught me computers. I worked for the Navy, and I became a computer operator. And then I went to IBM school up in Poughkeepsie and took up I was an analyst for computers. And I did that work as a computer analyst. And I retired as that.
What year did you retire?
1987. 1987.
It took me quite a while to get a pretty good job. It just, I don't know why, because of my education, I guess. And I got a good job. It was a custodian. And I was Woodbridge High School. I liked it. I really liked the job.
What did you like about it?
Hmm?
What did you like about it?
I just liked the job.
Yeah.
I was happy I was doing something for the kids.
Right.
And they didn't like me because I was so fussy.
Is that because you like things to be done the right way?
It's supposed to be.
Did you feel a sense of being a bit of a hero when you returned, or was it just a commonplace thing? So you didn't...
Yeah. You know, I suppose I would have felt like a hero if I was the only one that did that. You know, but I felt everything I went through, the next guy went through too.
What's your secret to long life?
For what?
I say, what is your secret to long life? People always say to people who live to be much older, they say, what is your secret? How have you lived to be so old and lived so long?
I don't know. I never smoked, I never drank. I don't know if that has any effect on it or not. I just don't know. I just thank the Lord for it every day.
Do you have any secret anything that you've done that you think contributes?
No,
to the
I
fact-
don't. I can't. It's just the man, he's got a reason for me to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make it worthwhile. I try to be a good guy, and I do. I have so many friends, the cops like me, the policemen, the firemen, they all say, hi, Stu.
Last question for you. What is the question or questions that you get most asked about your age?
My age?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is, what's your secret?
What is your secret?
You know what I tell them?
Yeah.
You're going to laugh. I tell them, join the army.
You know, Fran, remember that's what the nurse asked me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Not only, what is it, what was that, a year ago, a couple of years ago?
A couple years ago, maybe, yeah.
You right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. When I went for my, we were going for the shots, right?
Yes, for the vaccine.
Yes, we were going for the shots. And when the nurse heard that I was 100 years old, she said, what's your secret? I says, well, I looked around, I says, red wine, and a wild woman.
Really?
I said, she was there, I says, and wild woman, you know. Well, of course, the nurse laughed too, you know. They quoted me in the newspaper, because there was a new newspaper report. They put it there, but they put the red wine, but they left out the wild woman. Why did they leave out the wild woman?
Well, I can promise you, Frank, I'll leave the wild women in this interview. And I see in the corner of your dining room quite a few bottles of red wine, too.
Have a glass on me before you leave.
I think it's okay. Yeah.
I understand that when you drink wine together as a family, you all toast to something. Can you tell us what the family toasts to?
The toast?
The toast.
Chindan.
And what is that?
That means, may you live to be 100.
Thanks, Frank.
And I've drank a lot of toast. Yeah.
There we go.
It took me a long time to discover America. Longer than it took Columbus, I guess, and I had to make a long trip, too. I found out that it belongs to me. It belongs to me and you and all the rest of people back home. We licked the Nazis together, and we're going to lick the future together. That's the thing you learn in the Army, that a bunch of guys can do anything if they work together. That's the way democracy works, and that's why democracy works. I want to go back and help run our country, and that's a big job. It's a job that'll take 130 million of us all working hard. You see, I want to make damn sure that we don't lose the things that I've been fighting for and learning about. Because we've really got something, brother. I found that out. And I want to hang on to it. Together, we killed the Nazi idea. Well, together we're going to keep on building the American idea. We're going to make sure we've got a place where free kids can grow up into free men. Where every man is free and strong and equal. And where everything is run according to Lincoln. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. And the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. That was Lincoln's America, and it's my America, and it's your America. How about it, soldier? A penny for your thoughts.
We are exactly what you see, bruised and scraped up knees. Still we find our way. Some come as quickly as they go. Some choose their own roads. Still they find their way. And God knows how hard it is to lose. Pray to whichever one you choose, that you will find your way. Now we find our way.
If you'd like more information about the Rutgers Oral History Archives, or to find out more about the 4 veterans featured in this episode of Here's the Story, go to www.oralhistory.rutgers.edu.